Now that I have my reference image set up, I'm going to go back to my layers palette. I'm going to click this plus icon on the top left and add a new layer. I'm also going to make sure that my felt tip pen is selected. Now I'm going to begin to sketch my still life. Now, before I start drawing, I'm looking at it and I'm realizing that this drawing is made up of both hard surface and organic lines. Now, hard surface refers to all of these man-made objects. My box, my canister of compressed air, even my glass. You can see that many of these have very straight lines and hard angles, as opposed to organic shapes, like my apple here, that is very round and something that occurs in nature. I'm going to block out my drawing here by roughing in the primitive shapes that they belong to. Meaning that my box, well, essentially it's a box. I'm going to draw this box in 3 dimensions. Meaning that this is a drawing that's done in perspective. My lines are going off into the distance, much like my original references. If you see I draw lines and they disappear, it's because I'm hitting the undo key, which is done with Command Z or Control Z if you're on a PC. You can undo and redo also by using these buttons at the bottom left here, undo and redo. And the command for redo is Command Shift Z or Control Z, Shift Z. And I'm also going to draw my cylinders inside of a box first. So before I get too caught up in drawing a perfectly round spherical object or cylindrical object, I'm going to draw a box that's roughly the shape of my object. I'm also going to do this for the space that will contain my coffee cup and saucer. And we can modify these as we need to. And I'm going to draw a sphere for my apple. These are all sketched in, and none of them are super tight. I'm going to use my additive and subtractive methods of drawing by carving out my actual still life objects here. So, for example, my cylinder. First I'm going to break this down into its subsections here. Meaning I'm going to break down the area that I'm going to use for the body of the canister and then my area that I'm going to use for the top. And what I want to do is, instead of concentrating on just drawing the outline that I see here, I want to draw through the form. So very lightly, I'm going to draw the other side of this box. And I'm going to draw my round shapes inside of these inside of the box. And then kind of connect the dots, so that my 2D object starts to have the illusion that it's a 3D object. I can adjust my shapes as I need to. So if I drew my circles a little wide, I can draw them again smaller without really concentrating on erasing. If I want to draw a straight line, I can hold down the Shift key and pull my brush down vertically or horizontally. And I'm going to do the same thing with all of my shapes. So I'll build out the rest of my boxes. And I know that my saucer that the coffee cup is on will live in here somewhere. And you might see me undoing because I want to get a nice round free-flowing shape. I could use a variety of SketchBook Pro's automatic shape tools here to draw a perfect circle, but I'm not really worried about drawing perfect shapes just yet. I'm even going to draw a smaller box that lives within my larger box for the cup that sits on top of the saucer. Right now, this is all happening on just one layer. And I'll clean this up a little later. Now my box is the easiest of them all. Now this, I'm definitely going to be using some of my subtractive method because this box actually is an open box. There's no lid here. This actually goes inside. So I'm going to draw this like the rest of the boxes and show the inside of it. But I know that this plane here will be visible. These outer ones will not. I'm going to draw my apple. Now I can do the same thing like I did for everything else and basically sketch out the top and bottom of this apple like if it was transparent, like if it was made of glass, so that I can see the form through. So that even though I'm only going to render one side of this, because I took the time to think it through in 3 dimensions, all of my contours should look correct. I can indicate some shading at this early stage with some simple rendering techniques like hatching. And I'll go back and just make sure that I got all of the details I need before I get rid of any unwanted lines. Also, right now I'm not too concerned with accuracy in terms of the space. You'll notice that my dish and my reference is overlapping my canister here. And once I clean up some of these lines, I'll select my dish and place it in the proper spot. As a matter of fact, I'll do that now by hitting my hard eraser tool here on the center left of my toolbar. I'll scroll the brush to be bigger. I'll size it up by using my brackets left and right. Also, you can double click here on your tool and you can adjust your size of the brush with the sliders. Let's move that out of the way and I'll get rid of some of this excess. And I won't make it too perfect just yet, but I will grab my lasso tool, and you can use L on the keyboard to select it, or you can just tap here on the top left hand side of your toolbar, and I'm going to drag an outline right around this guy, and I'll hold down the V key to move him. Let's make sure that's still selected. If you click outside of the selection, it'll deselect. Oh, actually, once you drag it, there's no need to hold down the V key. It automatically engages. And I'll size this appropriately. And that looks better. And I'll deselect by clicking the lasso tool again. I'll jump back onto my felt tip brush or a pen and continue to draw in some of the details. I'll also solidify some of these lines and help my overall line quality and help remind me of the lines I actually want to keep by making a darker, bolder line and solidifying the lines I know I definitely want to keep. Then when I go back and erase, I know that I want to get rid of mostly my lighter lines. this canister is a 3D object, so I want to remember to try to capture both sides as much as I can. Meaning I'm drawing this nozzle part of the area, and there's obviously two sides to it. So I want to keep that in mind. And when I'm drawing this in the third dimension, that this would follow through. Again, even though we don't see it, it helps to picture the way the mechanism works and that there's a space for it to live. And I'm not going to worry about any of the small print or copy. You'll notice there's a hint of a strong highlight here at the right side. And I'll also rough in the actual coffee in the cup. Again, with another 3-dimension ellipse. And this is our basic block-in of our still life, using just a felt tip pen brush.